Hello, everybody. Welcome to Popcorn Planet Live, and it's time for Nerd Wars. Sorry, hot level. I'm so excited. Today is such a fun episode. You guys are in for such a treat, and those of you watching live, I see so many in the chat room. Thank you so much for coming, scheduling your night with me. I got my Cobra Kai on because we're going for a real serious battle here, guys. No mercy tonight because we are going where a lot of people don't want to go. Oh, I have the wrong one up. It's this fight. The actual fight is going to be this one. Did Rey ruin Star Wars? That's the fight we're talking about today, and I have some awesome guests. I'm so happy to have them both. One I've known who's been on the show before, who I love, and one I'm so excited to meet. Let's meet them both, the people who will be defending this fight. Did Rey ruin Star Wars? Ladies and gentlemen, it's TheEricButts. Hello, Eric.
Hello there. Hey, everybody.
I'm so happy to hear you, and I'm so happy to hear you talk instead of crying, because I know you're more than just crying.
Yes, that's true. It's only Star Wars that gets me that bad, so I'll keep it together as best I can here tonight. We'll see, though.
I love it. Eric, I want to say... tissue. Well, I got my closest thing to a mimosa I could find. My hard tangerine, Mike's Hard Lemonade. I do this all the time, so I love your beverage choice. But I want to say, Eric, I loved your video. I know you got a lot of flack for your video, but I loved your video, and I love that you let the comments on, and you took people were so mean to you, and that's to me what this show is about. The fact I'm so grateful for you coming on, giving a shot, and letting us hear your opinions on why you're so into this series. So thank you for coming and for putting yourself out there. It really means a lot to me.
Well, thank you for having me. I'm excited to do this, man. I've wanted to get on something like this for a long time, and to do it with you is going to be fantastic. So
this is going to be fun. Well, you're going up against a master. I told you, she's out for blood, and she's amazing. Jessi Milestone, welcome to the NerdWars show.
Oh, what's up, everybody? I'm so stoked to be here. Excited to be back on this awesome channel. I'm really excited because for some reason, people who don't already agree with me don't want to talk about Star Wars with me. I don't know why. It's like I demolish every one of their arguments or something like that. So it's really, really nice to find a sucker. I mean, brave individual who's willing to go toe-to-toe with me on this subject, about which I am equally passionate, I might add. But you're not going to see any waterworks from this one.
Oh, now how awesome if Jessi ends up being the one who cries at the end of the show.
Well, I have tissues at the ready too because I have a cat allergy. So.
Okay, fair enough.
I'll just blame it on the cats.
Well, Jessi from Mindless Entertainment, SJW Jessi is my favorite thing. She pranked my audience. It came and said that I needed permission to hug that cactus, and it was one of the funniest things. So thank you for coming on, Jessi, and coming back. So excited. You are welcome back anytime, and I suspect Eric will as well, but let's see how the fight goes, Eric. But here's how the show is going to work for as I told you and those at home. The format here is a little different. I have Jessi and I have Eric here, and they're going to be fighting. And we agreed on this topic up top, but I want to add a little bit of a clarification. I don't want to get too hung up on, a million things ruined Star Wars. We're specifically, Rey is not a great character, and that is what we're focusing on, is her not a good character is not a good fit for Star Wars, and that's what's ruining Star Wars. Let's not get hung up on the semantics of fun or failure. Just because it's fun doesn't mean it's bad. We're holding on Rey and what Rey's representation of the film, why it makes Star Wars bad, and why that's a bad thing for Star Wars. We all agree. We've clarified sort of where the fight's going to go. Yes.
Yes.
Yep.
Cool. And you both agree to that topic, so we know there's no funny business. You both liked the title, how it went, so that's where we're going to go. How the show will happen is we're going to start the round, you guys are going to start the fight, and then after you guys midway through, I'm going to introduce our assists, and I'm so happy to introduce them today. We got two new assists here, local Tampa residents, two of my favorite fighters. Izzy over there will be helping Eric defend Rey's honor. Welcome back, Izzy. Oh, I turned your mic off. Say that again.
Happy to be back, guys. Thanks for having me.
So happy to have you. And then, oh my God, we got Darth Damien here tonight defending, helping Jessi, saying Rey did ruin Star Wars. Yes, Damien?
She is strong with the dark side of the Force.
Wow, all right. So there you go. Now you got all the players revealed. You got their sides revealed, and this is a fun way for sort of people in here. They're gonna be listening, and that way, if you're having trouble midway through, they're gonna help jump in and got your back throughout the show. We got a couple bonus rounds, and if you guys support enough and you want to add a bonus round, you can with the rules on the bottom of the screen. So thank you for your support. Let's get to this. Are you guys ready to get to war?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
All right, I'm excited. We're doing this. Here we go. Let's start off. I'm going to let Eric as the Eric as the new person here. Let's give you the shot to sort of explain why is Rey why does she not ruin Star Wars?
All right. Well, I mean, I could argue that, what actually ruined Star Wars is people's expectations, but I won't go there. I don't think she really ruined Star Wars because I do think she's a great representation of what Star Wars is to the fan. In a lot of sense, I think she might even kind of be the fan, the version of the fan in the movie. She's heard all the stories. She's heard all the legends. She's excited to meet these characters and interact with them and show them what she can do. And she's just super fun for that. And it's like there's a charm to her, a wide-eyed innocence that just makes her so exciting to watch. And to watch her go on this journey and to watch people try to put her in a box and say she is this or she is that. And she's just like, no, I am me and I'm going to do these things. And because I have a purpose, at least I think I have a purpose. Trying to figure out what that purpose is, but I have a purpose. I know I'm supposed to do something, and I'm going to go out there and do it. And you can either help me, or otherwise you need to get out of my way. And I just think, to me, that totally is it's like a Luke Skywalker type, expanded even further, a little bit less whining about power converters at Tashi Station. So that's kind of my take on Rey. And to me, she's very inspiring too. I mean, maybe it's my age. Like when I saw Force Awakens at 36, my biological clock went off apparently, because I came out of that movie thinking, I always thought if I ever had a kid, it'd be fun to have a son and raise him and be like, oh, watch all these things and do all these. But that was the first time it's like, I would have loved to have had a young daughter and watched her experience that and see a representation of her on the screen that is that exciting and inspiring. And I loved it, and I've fallen in love with that character, and I don't think we know exactly what her journey is yet because we've only seen 2/3 of her story so far, and it's been very fascinating to me, and I like watching her shut everybody else down and not play by their rules or just be like, no, I know how to work this ship, I know how to do this. Even in Force Awakens, the whole Finn keeps trying to grab her hand, and that was just so cool that she's like, stop holding my hands, like I'm perfectly capable of running on my own. I'm not looking for your protection. As anything, I'm going to protect you. So I really like that. It's like, again, it's more of a Princess Leia and the Death Star escape than we've actually seen. It's more because we didn't really get a lot of that with Padme in the prequels. So this is a great representation of that, whereas Leia was like, your plan is failing. I'm taking charge. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, that, and the other. And I think, she's basically kind of taking that lead, especially as we get more into Last Jedi and everything. So, I mean, that's pretty much where I'm coming from, I guess.
All right. No, fantastic opening argument.
I'm rusty.
No. You did. That was a great opening. And I see Jesse's just chomping at the bit, ready to talk. So, Jesse, you get to have your opening remarks. Go ahead.
The first thing I'm going to say, and I don't mean this as a dig at the opposite gender. I mean this as a, we're cats and dogs. We don't always understand each other or what our experiences are. And that's to say that the only people I've ever heard defend Rey as a strong, inspiring female character for other women are men. And that I bring that up to lead into my point, because my point is that Rey is the hero's journey is laid on her shoulders, right? That's what you have. There are only two types of stories to write, ways to structure a basic screenplay. There's a 3-act structure and there's an epic journey. Or a hero's journey. And Star Wars is and has always been a hero's journey. And that is what they're going for with the sequels as well, right? That's it. You can read, all you want on screenwriting. If it's not a 3-act structure, it's a hero's journey, or it's like Memento. And while everyone thinks that's such a great piece of cinema, screenwriters tear that thing apart. So, the key elements of a hero's journey is you have a reluctant hero who answers the call to arms, who answers the call to the journey, who knows what this journey entails, but it's an insurmountable task that they have to figure out how to somehow overcome given where they've started from. Rey fits none of these, except for the reluctant hero part. There's no point where she actually accepts the call to arms. She just sort of gets swept along on this journey. She just kind of goes along with it. And as you exactly pointed out, we don't know where that journey goes because there is no clarity in what this is. The whole point, we have the movie hinging on her story, the same way the original trilogy hinges on Luke Skywalker's journey to earn his destiny as a Jedi Knight and to face his destiny by defeating his father. None of that exists for Rey over the course of 2 movies. What destiny is she coming to? What call is she trying to rise to? What great adversity has been put in front of her that she has to take down? And some of the big pitfalls of her character that make her not ever this hero that's going to be part of a satisfying hero's journey, and that lets the entire story collapse around her, is the fact that she has no agency as a character. As I said, she never accepts this call to arms, and this is true throughout the entire story. In 2 movies, she takes very little action. She makes very little decisions for herself. There's no point where she does something earth-shattering and groundbreaking except at the end of The Last Jedi when she lifts rocks. Wow, Luke did that in his training at the beginning of Empire. So she lifts rocks. That's her big part of agency. That's her big claim to power, is I decided to lift rocks and save the rebellion, and that's it, or the resistance, if you will. And in addition to that, the other big part, and you brought this up as a knock on Luke, but it's part of what makes his character so charming and so much better than Rey, is the growth. You have a Luke Skywalker who complains about wanting to go to Tashi Station to pick up power converters, to the character who stands in the face of Jabba the Hutt and doesn't flinch, who looks at certain death and says, you're making a big mistake, because he's completely full of confidence that was nowhere to be found at the beginning of this journey. He has this growth, this immense growth. He goes from this little farm boy to someone who has this greater understanding of the world and immense power in it. Rey has no growth. She's just as naive at the end of the Last Jedi as she was at the beginning of The Force Awakens, and she's just as unnecessarily powerful with raw strength that has seen virtually no training at the end of The Last Jedi as she is at The Force Awakens. So you're talking about a character with no agency and no growth, and she's the character we're supposed to hinge this entire trilogy around. And she's a tabula rasa. She's completely blank.
All right, no growth.
Okay.
A lot of stuff you said there. So, Eric, I want to give you a chance to respond. And also,
Okay,
I
got some.
do you think is her big moment only lifting rocks? I want you to respond to that too. But go ahead.
No, absolutely not. I think she has a much bigger part to play in the story. And I think a lot of that, what her responsibility is, at least what we've seen thus far, is that she is the one that found Luke Skywalker. She protected the missing piece of the map. She got it to the Resistance. She brought the Resistance a key element they needed to take down Starkiller Base by befriending Finn and going along on this journey with him. She brought Han back to the Resistance, and then she goes off to find Luke Skywalker and brings him to the Resistance. So I really think that's, at least from what we've seen so far, her actual purpose in this, and the things that she has accomplished in the film, is that she's kind of bringing the band back together, for lack of a better terms. And if that hadn't happened, the Resistance certainly would have been crushed at Crate if they'd even ever gotten that far. So I definitely think that she has a purpose, and she has done important things in the film. And a lot of those are based on choices she made. I mean, she could have just not partied with Finn at all in the beginning. She could have decided to go back to Jakku and not actually deal with the Luke Skywalker thing. So I think that's really the case there. I do think she has responsibilities and things to do in the story. And then you also kind of mentioned, like, she hasn't had big adversity in terms of facing down, like, Jabba when Luke was in front of Jabba. And I think this is one of those places where I have to go by the trailers. We haven't seen the new film. But if you look at the confidence in that showdown when she's on what we assume is the Death Star wreckage and she's going to go do that battle we've been seeing with her and Kylo, I feel like that is one of those moments, because that is her. She's so much more confident than she has been. And if the dialogue comes from that scene, especially where she says, nobody knows who I am and all this stuff, I mean, that's her saying, like, no, you aren't going to define me. I'm here and I'm going to defeat you, or not, whatever her plan is going to be in that, because we haven't seen the new movie. So I think that's kind of the case there. And I think in terms of what Rey's journey is in this story, is that she's trying to find her purpose. She's trying to find her place in this story. Like, the whole idea, she doesn't know who her parents are and she wants to find them. And that's still debatable, honestly, if we've actually figured that out or not. A lot of people seem to cement that what Kylo was saying, but I think what Kylo was just reflecting what was he seeing in her mind through the Force. So we don't know for sure if that's true. She might still have some greater destiny there. As for the hero's journey element, I kind of feel like maybe they are trying to do something a little bit different with that, and they're taking the different elements of a hero's journey and they're actually splitting it amongst Rey, Finn, and Poe. And I think they each have a little bit of that element going on to them. And then I also wanted to comment on the thing that Rey's growth is really most about, to me, what I'm seeing from these films, is it's a confidence. It's a lesson that I think more people need to learn. And again, we got to remember, these are primarily meant for a younger generation. Every new trilogy is for a younger generation. And I think this generation, what they're trying to teach through this character is learning to be comfortable with yourself, learning what your kind of purpose is, and realizing that you are going to have your choices to make and you need to be committed to them and stick to them. And hopefully you make the right ones, but whatever they are, they're the choices that define you. So that's kind of my rebuttal. I think I hit everything.
All right, so Jessi, go. You can have your rebuttal, but then I want to sort of make this an open forum for you guys to go back and forth and sort of challenge each other. And really get to the heat of like what's your biggest, what's the worst thing about her, or best thing about her that you guys can sort of go toe to toe to? Because I do think Eric did a good job sort of coming back with some of your points there. So go ahead, Jessi, respond to anything you want, and then let's start. You guys can feel free to sort of talk amongst yourselves. Go ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. The big thing for me here is that it doesn't matter what kind of confidence she shows up with in The Rise of Skywalker, because the whole point is she doesn't have that any flaws at the beginning. That the whole point is that it doesn't matter how powerful or great she is at the end, because she's there at the beginning. And right off the get-go, with the staff on Jakku, she's messing people up. She's tossing them down. She's not afraid of anything. She's not afraid of any fight. She faces down Kylo Ren at the end of the first movie and beats him, which is such a key part of Luke's journey. First of all, he's not even ready to face Darth Vader in A New Hope. Someone else has to do that for him. He goes and faces him in Empire Strikes Back and is defeated by him, because his whole path is defeating this one person. He faces down and then he finally faces him down and defeats him and defeats that evil in Return of the Jedi. So he has this growth. He has this arc. Rey never loses. Rey is never beaten. Rey has no flaws. She has and therefore no depth, because she has no flaws. She is just this perfect, amazing, high-powered character, and that, to go into what you asked, Andy, is exactly why, exactly what I think is the worst thing about her, is that she is this perfect, powerful woman who really doesn't struggle. I mean, you could say, okay, well, but there's not even a conflict. It's not even like she's dealing with what Kylo Ren's dealing with being torn between the good and the evil. She's just dealing with who am I? And that's not a strong character choice. If you're only, it's completely internal. So you're talking about a hero's journey, a big epic adventure story, and the entire struggle of your main character is this internal battle of who am I and where do I fit? And then going right back into lack of agency and right back into what for me is the most shameful thing about her character is she spends the entirety of The Last Jedi, up until she decides to lift rocks, following two different men around, quite literally asking them to show her her place. And I'm supposed to hold her up as some sort of feminist icon? This is where she really loses me, and where it goes beyond just bad character writing to actually being disgraceful. This nonsense that young women are supposed to look up to Rey and think, oh, she's so great, she's so powerful, to me is just disgraceful. All she finds, she latches onto Han as a surrogate father figure in The Force Awakens, and then she latches onto Luke as a surrogate father figure in the Last Jedi, and then she ditches him as soon as, notice her sudden pivot to softening on Kylo Ren happens to perfectly coincide with her seeing him with his shirt off. And now all of a sudden, the sexual tension that never existed between these two characters previously is blossoming. Now that we've got, hunky, weirdly broad man.
Go ahead, Eric, get in there.
All right, well, on the point of the Kylo romance thing, I mean, perhaps the timing of that may have given that impression. However, I don't think that's the thing, because right at that moment, she has gone to all her heroes and she's rejected what her heroes, like she had hoped they would give her the education or the knowledge she was seeking, but she was terribly disappointed by everything she found. And that's how she starts learning that, well, maybe the answer is within myself. And I think really the thing with Kylo is it's at a deep moment when Luke is just really flat out totally rejecting her. He's kind of starting to come around, but she's not finding that connection she wanted there, and she's finding that connection through him. He's actually listening to her. And I think it's more about the fact he's listening to her in a way that nobody else in this universe had in her life up to this point that we'd seen. That's really where that connection is coming from. So I think that's a big part of that. And again, I think, she rejects all these people when they start trying to teach her lessons she doesn't learn. And I think that's also the kind of journey she's going on. Is she's finding her own way through the universe, because again, she looks at Luke, she's heard these legends. It's like, this man's going to teach me. And then he's like, oh, you know what? Everything you thought is garbage. The Jedi were horrible people, which they were. Their code was really broken. It's like, I've rejected all this. And he's afraid of her when she just goes deep into the dark right there, but comes back. Like, she's not bound by all these guidelines and things holding her in. So she goes to all these places, and then that freaks out her role models, and she quickly realizes they aren't who I'm looking for. And then she tries to find it in Kylo even. Like, that was her big thing in The Last Jedi, was that she wanted to turn him. She wanted to bring him back to the light, or bring him somewhere, because she, I believe, is still trying to figure out if she really belongs in the light or the dark. And I don't know if they're going to go a gray Jedi way, but I kind of always thought that would be the way to do it. It's like, you know what, both sides are totally wrong a lot of the time. Let's find somewhere in the middle. So I really think that, that's pretty much what's happening there. And as far as a feminist thing, I guess I never really put it in those connotations. So I'm not trying to argue that she should be a feminist role model as much as it's just another great, strong character for the young girls to look up to, or ladies to look up to, in a string of long characters from your Sarah Connors, your Ellen Ripleys, your Nancy from Nightmare on Elm Street, your Alicia King. I can't remember her character's name from Friday the 13th. I grew up with all those like strong, heroic female characters. And this to me is just like, oh, good. It's nice to see more of a mainstream interpretation of that, but not necessarily on that level of feminist. Because again, I'm not familiar enough with all the feminist things to pretend to be any kind of expert on that element of it. But in terms of did she ruin Star Wars, or is she bad for Star Wars, I say absolutely not, because she is just another fantastic, one of the strongest female characters we've seen in the film. And she's real fun to go on the journey with if you just get into the
Jessi.
innocence.
Jessi, get in there, yes.
Yeah, Eric, I think you just made a bunch of my points for me. And then exactly what you said. First of all, the moment where she decides to reject Luke is the moment where Luke is coming around to her. They're starting to form. It's exactly that moment where they're starting to form this connection. They're starting to form a bridge between the present and the past, the future and the past, when she turns around and just rejects him summarily because Kylo Ren looks hot with his shirt off, or she sees someone who needs saving. Which, by the way, that's a terrible female trope that ascribed to her character of she sees the damaged. This is terror. This is also in real life has led to so many abusive relationships. Is the caring, loving female sees the damaged male and has to go save him, and then makes her goal about saving. And look what happens as the result of that. She ends up trapped in the throne room. She nearly gets killed by Snoke. She ends up under attack in this situation. She has to fight her way out of all this nonsense because she has to go save him. And so for me, that's just one more pathetic stereotypically female characteristic that is not strong at all. It's not representative of a strong woman. Every female hero that you named, that you listed, struggles in some way, has some sort of journey, has some sort of growth. And part of that is that's what women need to have to look up to as role models in their life. If I see a woman who just gets everything, you're Rey from absolutely nowhere. You're dirt poor scavenging on this planet. Now you're being handed this precious lightsaber. Now you're being handed these precious responsibilities. Now you're being taken under the wing of one of the most fascinating characters ever created. Now you're getting to go to another one to learn from him. Now you're getting the whole centerpiece of the story centered on you without doing anything, without doing a single thing to earn that. That's not a strong female character. Strong female characters, like every character, work for what they earn, suffer for what they earn. We watch them fall as well as get back up again. And that is part of what makes them strong and powerful. And the last thing of what you said that I think just once again makes my point is you talk about her rejection of Han, her rejection of Luke. And that's exactly why she fails as a Star Wars character and ruins the Force Awakens, is because of that rejection. And then ruins The Last Jedi, that rejection. Star Wars is those characters. Star Wars is Han, Luke, and Princess Leia. Those are the original Star Wars characters. This universe doesn't exist without them. And so to drop that on her shoulders, to have her be the center focal point of the rejection of those characters and everything they tried to teach and everything they believed and stood for is exactly what's wrong with the new Star Wars, and that's right there on her shoulders, exactly as you said.
All right, I want to bring in some assists here because I want to make this a free-for-all and get some more helps because Eric and Jessi, you both are doing great. But I want to introduce, we have two people in studio who've been listening and chomping at the bit as well to sort of help their players here. So I want to bring in Izzy and Damien. Izzy, do you want to get on this? Do you want to help make any comments? Or what do you think of Eric's argument so far? Anything you want to chime in or help defend him against Jessi? Go ahead.
I think it's a great argument.
Sorry, go ahead. Now I hear you.
I think it's a great argument. I think that people somehow don't like the fact that Rey exists to upset this traditional balance and this traditional method of telling this story. So we have to look at things from that point. You say she hasn't struggled, and you say she has these Mary Sue instances of power, but I mean, she grew up on Jakku. She's been struggling her whole life. Of course she can defend herself. Of course she has vague piloting skills. But in the same instance, it's not as if the Force isn't space magic, right? There aren't instances in the other...
That's not how the Force works!
Yeah. You know what I mean? There aren't instances of Luke flying X-Wings and, like, not having the training and following his feelings in these instances. Why is that the thing we latch on to? Are we going to sit here and say that she's a feminist icon? Probably not. But to sit here and try to espouse that she's not an effectively written character, I can't buy. I think she does have plenty of agency. I think when you reframe all of her actions as being the person that's there to upset this balance and reframe this universe for everything that's going forward, it makes sense. Of course she rejects Luke because she looks at the nonsense and says, maybe this isn't for me. Of course, he turns to Kylo Ren and says, well, if this Luke thing isn't for me and I haven't been getting what I need from anyone I've spoken to, why would I not go to someone else who's perceived as an outcast by the people they're supposed to be trained by? Why would I not go to him? Is it a little, for want of a better phrase, Captain Save-A-Ho? Yes. And maybe we shouldn't be leaning into this women need to save broken men trope. That's accurate, but I'm not going to sit here and say it doesn't make sense for her character actions. There aren't many things her character does that don't make sense. In the first movie, she's getting drugged from place to place, but the whole point is so she can get home back to Jakku. And simultaneously, you know, it is like Eric said, she's meeting these people she's heard about her whole life. I'm hanging out with these people in that situation. Yeah.
She is a fan. Damien, what did you want to add to help Jessi or comment?
Well, first of all, Jessi is hitting on all the points that exactly why a character is a character, and they're meant to serve a purpose within a story. And the problem is that Rey happens. See, a character takes choices, and Rey happens. She happens to run into BB-8. Okay, fine. She happens to run into Finn. Okay, fine. They happen to get the Millennium Falcon, which happens to get found by Han Solo. She didn't make a choice in any of those matters to sit there and say, hey, I'm going to help you because I want... She actually said, get away from me. What are you doing? Stop running with me. If Finn hadn't grabbed her by the hand a bunch of times, she wouldn't have actually been dragged along on this journey. Then she happens to get over to the kidnapped, and when she gets kidnapped, she happens to know how to Jedi mind trick people. I mean, let's talk about this for a second here. I don't care how many legends I've heard of. I can't happen to shoot a three-pointer without having practiced shooting a three-pointer. So, I can't happen to just, do karate.
But that's
I can't
obviously
happen to just, come on, there's a lot of crap that you just can't happen to do.
Okay, so number one, that's obviously an instance of Daniel Craig wants to be in this movie. Let's give him something to say. Right? Come on now. But also... Right, but also we don't know.
Okay, Simon Penn wanted to be in the movie, and he had a character that had a purpose. Just because I want to be in the movie and be force tricked, that's a stupid reason to give to a character. Because now you just negated everything that it takes to become a Jedi, or anything that it takes to become useful with the Force. So what you've done is you've taken this person who has absolutely no training. Fine, you're force sensitive. You can fly a plane very well. That's been proven. Hey, we've seen a little kid do a pod racer. We understand that. You could do that. You could be very reflective. Understood. But to do a Jedi mind trick, to then turn around and fight a lightsaber battle against a trained person who trained not only under Luke, but also under Snoke, and you're going to sit there, and even if he was hit with a blaster, and yes, he was hurt, when Vader fought Luke, Vader beat Luke with one hand. He barely lifted a finger to beat him. We had a trained Kylo Ren who's like almost completed in his training, and she sits there. If you watch it, I rewatched The Force Awakens. She sits there for like 5 seconds. I'm going to concentrate here and now and use my force to push you back and beat you. Dude, at what point did Kylo Ren not just go, game over, man. Game over. And then, I'm sorry, Eric, you then you compared her and put in the same bucket as Ripley and Sarah Connor. What the heck, man? I mean, let's just be honest. So Ripley and Sarah Connor in their first films were running scared most of the film and then had to overcome and at the very last second be brave and just be witty enough to just finally beat the person. And then you see them in the second film and damn, these people have grown. They've been through hell. They're now stronger. And you're like, yes, you show them how strong you've become over time. You show them how badass you've become over time because you've been through it. Rey didn't have to do that. Rey is lifting not just a rock. Rey's lifting boulders. She's lifting entire mountains of stuff. And I'm like, At what point in the entire two lessons that Luke gave her, because he didn't even give her the third one, at what point in the 2 lessons that he gave her was there, oh yeah, by the way, you can lift rocks with this. He said it's not even about lifting rocks. And yet she's able to sit there and go, I'm going to show up at the end and I'm going to save everybody. Again, not a choice. Happens. She shows up and happens to be in the right place where the little foxes come out and she sees them. She sees them from the Millennium Falcon, and she's like, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna know how to lift all these boulders and free my people.
All right, hold on. I want to add. So I gave you guys a moment, and I want to get Jessi and Eric back in to respond. So you got some assists there, add some energy. But I want to call out. Thank you. We got to because we got a super chat. Jess, you just got some support. Rosetta Allen, thank you, Rosetta. To be a strong woman, we have to struggle to find our strength compared to a man, not to become like a man, but to show how we can be powerful in our own minds and our own hearts. Hashtag Team Jessi. All right, so Jessi, you got that part of the fight. Eric, let's go to you just to respond to a lot of stuff there, and then Jessi, you can feel free, but go ahead.
All right, first off, and I know this is such an easy argument, but the Force wills certain things to happen. So you got that right there. She's where she needs to be because that's where the Force wants her. And there's evidence of all that's true here, all through the films. She is one of the strongest Force wielders that the galaxy has seen yet. Notice how terrified Luke is when he does start training her a little bit. And just in that split second, she's already to the dark. She's shaking everything. She's going to break down this mountain. He's like, oh my God, there's so much power here. Now, as far as her knowing how to do the lightsaber fight, it's not just that he got shot. He got shot by Chewie's bowcaster, which they had spent the entire movie setting up just how powerful that is. So that wasn't like just a standard blaster. That was a giant chunk taken out of him, which you even see him smacking himself to try to get the adrenaline going and all of that. But you forget before she does the mind trick on Daniel Craig, there's a key scene, and it's the interrogation scene where suddenly, as Kylo is getting into her mind with the Force, he becomes afraid because she throws it back on him, and she's in his mind. So she sees all these things, even if it's not something she had heard could be done from a Jedi, because I'm sure she's heard rumors of what Jedis can do. So she's like, well, let me try that. But on top of that, she saw this, and she understood some things while she was in his mind. So, I mean, there's that total potential there for all of that. And I feel like there was something else I wanted to hit on, but there's so much I forgot.
No, it happens. Jessi, go ahead. Go ahead with your reply.
Plenty to go on right there. Again, just another example of piss poor writing, right? Anakin was the most powerful Force user we've ever seen, and then Kylo Ren was frighteningly Force powerful, and now Rey is even more frighteningly Force powerful. What is this ridiculous exponential add-on of Force power on top of Force power on top of Force power, and where does it end? Especially because even with that raw power, and we're demonstrating that clearly with Anakin's character and clearly with Luke's character, because Luke is also an incredibly powerful natural Force user. Both of these characters require an immense amount of training to hone their natural gifts. What can Anakin do before any of this, before he's taken and trained? He can fly a pod racer really good, and he can intuit what shapes are behind the little screen in the Jedi Council room. Those are literally the only things we see him able to do with the Force prior to him getting any training. Luke is under life-threatening duress before he even manages to not immediately Force pull his lightsaber to him to not die. I mean, that took an incredible amount of concentration and work for him to do that in a immediately life-threatening situation. Rey is just in a little bit of discomfort and pain, and all of a sudden, bam, she can throw it back on the most powerful Force user, the new most powerful Force user, and then can do this perfectly practiced Jedi mind trick, the likes of which blew Luke's mind the first time he saw it. And I don't care how injured Kylo Ren is. And I don't care how good Rey is with the staff, which she, by the way, taught herself. She's a self-taught staff user. I am a trained fencer. I have fought self-taught stick fighters. They are not fencers. And I have also gone up against other untrained, poorly trained fencers when I was drunk and injured. And I had no problem beating them. I was drunk once and I fenced one of my students with my eyes closed and I still won. So I don't give a crap if he's on death's door, which clearly he's not because he won. There is no fucking way in hell that she is gonna pop up and be like, I've never used this thing before. Watch me, Matrix moment. I know the Force. Suddenly be incredible and beat somebody who's had years of training.
Well, and also, I mean, come on, Kylo is not, he like all Sith do, he doesn't actually want to beat her. So he's also, on top of all that, he's holding back some because when they are holding those sabers, He wants to teach her. He wants to take her under his wing, and he wants to rule the galaxy with her, which, is a common failing of the Sith. So, I mean, it's not that he's coming at her full strength on top of that big wound. Also, the argument that, about poor writing, let's be real. I love Star Wars. I'm passionate about it, but the writing has never been great. It has moments of greatness, but overall, the writing in Star Wars, like people are like, you think Star Wars is the greatest movie ever? No, it's one of my favorite experiences, but there's plenty of flaws to be found in Star Wars. So I think arguing the writing is a completely different topic. And then also with the Luke thing, that was the thing I forgot a minute ago, is that he just, R2 happened to be sold by the Jawas to his farm. He happened to meet Chewbacca and Han Solo, although more of that story may be revealed in the future. And as for Rey being more and more powerful in the escalation of power, I kind of have to go on some conjecture here because, again, we haven't seen Rise of Skywalker. But as we know, one way or the other, the Emperor is involved with all of this. And so it's suggesting that he's been hiding out and his power has been growing one way or another. So the dark side is getting stronger and stronger. So for the Force to find balance, it has to make the light side stronger and stronger. So,
but once again, as you just argued, it's not clear that Rey is light side, so you can't say that this is the Force choosing her to be the good guy, because that's also the thing.
Well,
the Force doesn't choose who's good and evil, though. That's we've seen that clearly. Everybody has to go on their own journey. So if you're saying, oh, well, yeah, the Force is going to create powerful people who might be able to choose, the odds of it just being this one person are like, eh. But then back to your point about Luke happening. There are things that he did. First of all, he happens to find Han and Chewie. The thing is that Han and Chewie are only intrinsic parts of the story because those are the pilots that were hired. They could have been anybody. That's not necessary. It's not like, oh, without them, you don't have a story. Well, okay, without them, they would have found 2 other people in Star Wars that are about those characters instead. He doesn't happen to find Obi-Wan. Obi-Wan is there, waiting for him, looking for him, that piece, and that's the key piece, because that is what creates the call to action. That's what creates the entire journey. That doesn't just happen to happen. That is on purpose, that is intentional, and that is the most pivotal part of launching this entire story. And that moment doesn't exist for Rey. There is no moment where somebody says, I choose you, or where Rey says, I choose me, or I choose this path or this life. She doesn't. As you even stated before, she spends all of The Force Awakens until she realizes she's part of this now, trying to get back to Jakku. Her whole thing is like, let's just get through this so I can get back home and wait for my parents who are never coming back. So there's no point in that movie where she's like, yes, I accept this call to arms. I am going to do this. She's just like derping around. And I think it was a great point that was made about the happening, right? Is that, and then the other point, even that Izzy made too, backs this up for me, where you're like, well, she's the thing that undermines all these other elements. That makes her a plot device, not a character. Exactly. There's nothing about the creation of her that's a well-rounded character. She doesn't have a personality. She has occasional moments of snark. She has no personality. We don't know what she wants out of life. We don't know what she wants out of anything. We don't know anything about her, how she thinks, how she feels, if she ever had goals, what they were, what those dreams would have been. We know none of that. She is simply a plot device so that the filmmakers can go, oh, look at us, we did Star Wars.
And here's
so Rian Johnson could go, look how clever.
If I may add to that, we talked about, Star Wars maybe not having the best writing, but they did have character arcs. And I think that's what we're talking about here, is the actual character arc. So when we say that we don't know her, we don't know what her desires are, Luke wanted to leave the planet. That was his goal. He said, I want to join the Empire. Hell, I don't give a damn what I do. I just got to get off this rock. And we knew that he would jump on the opportunity to leave the planet. Especially knights and lightsabers and laser battles? Yes, that's what Luke wanted. Rey wants to wait on a planet and wait for her parents to come back. And that's all she wanted, to just be on this planet. She actually didn't want to go out on any adventures. She didn't want to improve herself any. She just tried to survive. This is something that when I say that things happened to her, I mean that there was no moment in there where she said, yeah, you know what? I do want to go out and I want to become a better person, or I do want to go out and find these things out. So now she says, and there's a moment in the film that she actually says, there's something in me and now it's awoken. I kind of always knew it was there and now it's awoken. And I just want to know my place. And this is one of the things that's really, really horrible.
Once Disney shut it down.
Disney shut it down. Bear with me. Guys, tell me when you see us again. Are we back?
Wonderful world of live streaming.
I'm seeing you guys. So.
Yeah, it seems to all be
Skype.
coming back.
There we go. Excellent connection. We should be back.
No.
All right.
Hold on. I can't end the stream. How do I there we go. All right. I think it's back. There we go. I see it. It popped back in. Sorry, everybody. There was a drop frame issue. We should be back now.
It was a great argument. We totally kicked ass.
Damien, yeah, you were off on a tirade there, but we all heard it. But yeah, wrap up the last part of what you want to say there, just so for those who did.
Essentially,
sorry, Disney Plus shut us down. We're back.
Essentially, when you're talking about female characters and you look at the characters in the past, you see a change between film 1 and film 2. Kylo Ren had a bigger change between his first encounter, where he had more conflict of, I want to be full dark and I have to make this huge, heavy decision about killing my father. There was more conflict and more decision-making by Kylo in the first film, and in the second film, he had to then kill his own master. Kylo has more change, more character, more arc than our protagonist, and that's supposed to be Rey, who has things happen to her and then turns around and just doesn't know her place and is asking for people to know her place, and then all of a sudden just has all this ability that's just not earned. So we have no growth, no arc. She's been the exact same person from the beginning of the story that she is now at the end of the second story. And the only thing that they could do in the third story is do some ex machina thing that's going to just all of a sudden reveal all of this crap that you're going to be like, what? When did you drop those clues in the first 2 films? You're going to have to do so much damage control to make this character work and have an arc.
I heard a lot from you guys. I want to get closing arguments here because I feel like I have my mind set up. But I want to hear Eric and Izzy. And I'll be honest, here's where I'm leaning. I'm leaning on the other side just because I don't understand. And let's be honest, actually. Let's be fair. We don't know where her arc is ending yet because there's a third movie. But to be fair, she's been in 2 movies. We should know enough to care about the character. And where I'm struggling is I do hear like the lack of purpose. And I've heard you say, Eric, her purpose is to find her purpose. It feels like a cop-out to me. Like, why? I don't even want to get too lost in how well she knows everything. I agree that's a fair point, and even the feminism character, I agree. But where I'm really torn is this moment of what is her purpose, because I feel like we've compared her to Luke, and Luke, as Damien and Jessi have said, had a purpose. Like he was there to stop when Obi-Wan's murdered. He finds out his father. How do I turn him? All those things were sort of things that kept him moving forward. What is it about Rey that gives her purpose to make her a worthy character that doesn't sort of ruin this new trilogy? So Eric, I go to you first to sort of chime in there, and then Izzy, you can chime in too to help him.
All right, well, I think a big part of my theory is I think this is kind of the trickery of the sequel trilogy is it's very, very possible, and you could totally look at it this way, that Rey is really a red herring. This isn't actually her story as much as this is Kylo Ren's story. I mean, he is a Skywalker, so, I mean, he's got that Skywalker blood in him, so really, I mean, it could...
What's the difference?
Really? Is he connected? He's not connected to the Wi-Fi.
Yeah. No. You're not on the Wi-Fi?
Yeah, no, I'm never connected to the Wi-Fi.
Oh, you're not? Okay.
Verizon Wireless.
Interesting.
Are you doing this
Turn
via
that off
Wi-Fi?
just in case. Yeah. I think we're back. Are we back in? There we go. All right, we are back in. Sorry, someone was eating off my internet right as we go. I think that was the culprit. Sorry. So Eric, go ahead from where you were. My apologies.
Okay. I don't know exactly where we left off, but basically I was saying Rey's the red herring is really the story of Kylo Ren because he is a Skywalker, and I guess I like this concept that, it's all about the Bendemption. That's what this story is really about, not as much about Rey, because they've been subverting all our expectations. That's what the point of the sequel trilogy is, setting it up and then doing something different. And then, like I said, I really like this concept that, the sequel trilogy was the son failing the mother. Is she?
Yes! That's how she's written. That's how she's marketed. That's how they've set it up. That she is the protagonist and he is the antagonist. That's what protagonist means. That's what antagonist means. So if the whole thing is like, gotcha, she wasn't the main character after all, that's exactly why she's terrible and ruins all of it. Also, Kylo Ren cannot be redeemed unless he sacrifices his life at the end. He stabbed his father in the chest. He blew up planets. There is no redemption for him unless it is sacrifice of his entire life. And even then, that is just a pathetic echo of how Darth Vader died. So if that's the case, if that is the actual case, then garbage. And that's the final thing that I need to say is that if Rey's powers and all this backstory is explained by Palpatine's fuckery around in here, that's just another way that Rey has no agency. Everything in her journey, everything in her life is what somebody else decided for her and somebody else made for her. And if that's not the case, then all of a sudden, in the third movie of this trilogy, Rey's going to finally discover what her motivation is all along, and then boom, done, the end. Wow, where was this? Why did I spend 2 movies watching you do nothing so that you could finally figure out who you were? 6-7 hours later.
Time! Ding, 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 ding. All right, I gave you guys extra time. We had some stall outs there. Apologies for the streaming issue. Just refresh now. We should be good. But man, you guys all brought it. You all had sort of equal time. You had some assists from here. There were a couple other comments I want to sort of add in. So thank you guys who super chatted over. Again, ignoring leaks to support your side came from Dante Combs. I guess I don't know the leaks. I haven't read the leaks. I'm trying to avoid the leaks because I heard the leaks might be true.
I'm not even sure they're real anyways.
I lost them when I refreshed. Ah, damn it. Hold on. Do I have them here? They should be here. Do you have them on your phone there, Rob, or no? You close it, of course, because I told you to close it down.
Yay!
Sorry, so I lost some in chats. There was a couple there I wanted to comment, but I will try and figure out how to get to them as we go. All right. Well, sorry, apologies. The ones that come in now, and I'll try and find them. I think there's a way to do it. I just have to find it, but I refreshed the. Why doesn't the live chat stay there? That's kind of stupid. All right. So overall, here's where I stand. I think you both actually did make strong arguments, and I got to give you props, Eric, because I think you did do a great job. You people I think have judged you as a crying fan person, but you came and brought facts, and I appreciate it. While people may not agree with you, and some did in the comments, but I do feel like you did your best to show your Star Wars knowledge. You came ready to sort of attempt to show your side of why you like these things, and I believe why you like them. So good job. But I do think you didn't really answer a lot of the questions for me of the purpose, and I don't think she's a bad character, but I think that Jessi did throw out enough points of the lack of purpose on top of the bad feminist character of she is written to sort of just follow the man and do everything, isn't actually a good female role model character. I think is actually a strong point, as well as just there is no purpose. She knows everything. All of those things I didn't hear enough to combat that passion. So I do surprisingly have to say, I think ruin is a harsh word. But in the case of this fight, I have to give Jessi the first point and say that yes, based off of these arguments, Rey did ruin Star Wars. So bravo, Jessi. Right. But fantastic job, Eric. And thank you to the assists of Izzy and Damien. Bravo. We are not done. We are not done. We have a second round here, which I call the headline round. And in this round, we are going to go off of something in the news. For those that don't remember or didn't hear, Disney Plus just re-edited the Who Shot Han First. So once again, the argument is up for debate. And I thought, let's have this debate officially with two Star Wars fans, and I'm going to throw it out. You guys in the studio will have to go with wherever your fighter goes because I can't adjust the graphics live. So Eric and Jessi, do one of you have a passionate opinion on did Han shoot first?
You go ahead, Jessi. You go ahead. I think you care more about this than I do, so go right ahead.
Ready.
Okay, right. So Jessi, what's your take?
Han Solo is the.
But wait, hold on. What's your you're saying he shot first or not?
Not only did Han shoot first, Han is the only one who shot. Han shot. The end. End of story.
Han shot.
Done.
No other person shot. Okay.
No other person shot the way it was in the original theatrical release. And you can say what you want about, well, the filmmaker has an opinion and a this and a that and the second guessing, but the original way the story's told is the best way, in my opinion, the story's told, because in this, you have the strongest stance on who this character is. And Han Solo has possibly the greatest anti-hero arc of any anti-hero of all time. And in this moment, you get this firm, distinct characterization that here is a man who does not, when it comes to protecting his life, he takes no chances, he takes no second thoughts, he takes no risks. You're here, you pose a threat to my well-being, bam, you're dead. I'm not losing sleep over it. I don't even have to be immediately threatened. I don't have to feel like you're even about to shoot me. I can just wait interrupt you right in the middle of your little monologue when I know there's probably 30 to 40 more seconds before you even walk me out into the back to fire a gun. And I'm not having it. I'm done. Bam, you're over. And that moment, and there's no other cut of that scene that characterizes his character so clearly in that way. And that moment is so beautifully juxtaposed with the end of the film, where after he's done exactly what's consistent with his character, here's my money, here's what I got to go do to protect myself. You guys were great. I made friends with you, but number one is me, and I got to look after that. Turns around, says, screw it. I found something more important than just my own life. Flies back in to save the day on what he's already christened the suicide mission. So that without that clear, firm characterization, the payoff at the end of the film is not nearly as rich.
Eric?
All right. Well, first, I do want to point out that it wasn't Disney Plus that re-edited it. It was George Lucas. This was a re-edit done in 2004 for when he was going to do the conversions to 3D that never got released, which bums me out, and I really would have loved to have seen that. But so you can't blame Disney Plus for it. It is a strange change because the new change is just adding a new word. What is it, McClunky or something like that? I haven't watched it myself.
Yes, McClunky.
I have to admit, I know this is going to hurt my argument. I see both sides of this, okay? So I can't argue this one too strongly, but so the angle I'm going to take from this is I'm going to get behind the filmmaker. I'm going to get behind George Lucas on this and say that this is him having fun and trolling the audience back. That this is the scene he knows that anytime he can make some minor change to, it's his own little FU to all the people on the internet complaining about Lucas did that and this and the other. And I think that's brilliant. And I love stuff like that. I love because it's subtle enough, but it gets under the skin so bad. So I'm going to take the side that yes, and he should just keep changing it until the day it dies. Does it hurt Han Solo a little bit? Maybe, but I still think that characterization is still strongly there. You get it from the sense that he's going to take the money and run, and he still comes back. There's all those elements still there. The fact that he would even still shoot Greedo at all in public and then just throw a coin at the bartender like, sorry about the mess. So, I mean, for the most part, it doesn't really undermine his character that much that they now shoot simultaneously. Maybe when it was Greedo shooting first, it did a worse job, but at least now.
Well, and here,
so that's
I think the addition of the word is the worst part in there because we don't have a translation. We don't know what it is. We don't know what it says. This could be the moment. Oh, well, he says now die, and that's Han's justification for shooting him first. It's without that ambiguity. First of all, it makes the scene clunky. It's weird. It's like why. It makes it McClunky. Yes. And second of all, Lucas should get the fuck over it. Yes, it's his baby. Star Wars is his baby, and he's so mad that the fans, but he's acting like a Rian Johnson in this moment. The reality is, you are an A-list filmmaker. You created one of the most successful IPs, if not the most successful IP of all time. You need to be above getting butthurt because not every fan likes your stuff. And that's the reality. If you want to go out there, and say, I did this, I'm proud of my work, I stand by it, great, stand by it. But this because I agree with you. I agree that this tweak was an absolute fuck you to the fans who made such a big stink about the initial changes.
And he did it from the grave in a way. It is kind of sickly beautiful, no?
I mean, there's something I can appreciate that on one level. Especially on the level where I know Disney's going to get some flack because not everyone's going to realize that this is a Lucas change, as Eric pointed out for us. So that level pleases me, but I just really think at this point too, you're so over it. You're so over the fan response to the prequels and whatnot. Then be over it. Then be bigger than that. Then take your own money and run. Then laugh all the way to the bank. Because if I'm in your shoes, if I have that much money and I make a misstep in my filmmaking process and 100,000 people, 1 million people go, oh my God, how could you? How could you? I'm going to go suck it and then sit on my yacht, sip a margarita.
Yeah.
Well,
all right,
I can relate. Oh.
I was going to say, in studio, anything you want to add to sort of, is this, I think Eric made an interesting point too of, is the shooting first really that changing of a defining moment for Han? What do you guys think?
Well, yeah, I mean, this is a place that, first of all, Obi-Wan says that this is a place for swindlers and criminals and it's the most despicable people in this place.
Wretched
and Han is like the apex predator in this place where he can sit there and go, out of all these despicable people, I'm the worst. I'm the one you have to fear. I'm the one you have to respect. I'm the one who did the Kessel Run. I am so full of my shit right now that I'm the guy to beat in this place. So... yes, Guido, bounty hunter, guess what? You don't scare me. No one scares me. In fact, it makes it so that the only person who can catch him is Boba Fett. So it only elevates Boba Fett's character, that fact that the only person that could actually catch Han is someone of that level. Other than that, not to mention, you talked about the filmmaker's intent. I like George Lucas after American Graffiti. George Lucas. I like the raw beard. Let's get in the grime. Make this film inside of my garage. Let's just do this thing, and I'm gonna be like, yo, my character's a badass Westerner who's gonna just shoot you in a bar. That's what he was intended for. You're talking about older, softer, gentler George Lucas, who's a little softer, a little cuddlier. He's like, oh, it's for the kiddies. And then he's going to be all like, hey, it's okay. We don't want Han to shoot first because we don't want him to look like so much of a scoundrel. He is a scoundrel. That's what Leia calls him. You scoundrel. That's the whole point of his character, is to be that guy. That's why you want to wear the leather jacket. That's why you want to have the side hip gun. He is that guy. And to take that away from him is taking a huge part away from who he is. So yes, it is important because it is the character's introduction. One of the most important parts of any character in a story is their first scene, their introduction, how we meet them, because that tells us so much about that character.
But hold on. I got to chime in, and I'm going to let you go, Izzy. In the first version, they kind of shoot at the same time, correct? So I'm torn on, like, you guys are using this defense, but I got to call out because it's
theatrical. In the
Like the
theatrical
original
theatrical
no.
release, Greedo doesn't shoot.
Doesn't shoot.
Yeah,
okay.
right.
But it was
Blasted.
it was the next version that everyone
The special edition.
When
Well,
they
no,
shot
I thought it
together.
was still
Kinda
the home.
simultaneously.
Even the home release was
No,
that.
actually, no. It was okay. Original.
Yes,
only
Eric,
Han
correct me.
shot. Special edition. Greedo clearly shoots first.
Yes.
Then the home release of the special edition, they shoot pretty much at
That's
the
the one
same
I'm-
time.
okay, that's
and
the one
now
I
we
missed.
have
I
this
thought that was
newer
the-
version.
That's the one I saw as a kid.
Okay, yeah,
I'm
that's the
younger
one I
than
saw
all
as a
you
kid
guys.
too, where they sort of shoot.
You guys saw
together.
watered down Han. I'm sorry.
yeah.
I'm self.
You guys-
It didn't bother me as the
To the
thing.
point,
Diet Han Solo is what you got.
But
To the point, though.
Of the original of the theatrical release. So I grew up with just Han shooting, and that was something that perturbed me as a kid. The first time I ever saw a Star Wars movie in theater was the special edition of A New Hope, and that right away that bothered me since I was a small child.
But I want to ask a distinction about the question too, because you're saying, are we arguing the latest change or the changes in general? Because
Sure.
you make a lot of the arguments here are about the original changes, not the latest.
Based off
change.
of George Lucas and all of his edits and everything that we see, are we respecting the filmmaker's vision that he clearly wants to adjust this and make it questionable, or did he shoot first? Because let's remember, if we are unsure, technically then we don't know if he shot first. I want to know, did Han shoot first? So there is a technicality there of, Eric, Izzy, you could win by pointing out, well, we don't know. And that's what George doesn't want us to know. So real quick, Izzy, go ahead. What were you going to add?
I think the point is we don't know. And I think the point is it doesn't matter specifically. I mean, you think it matters because this is the first one you saw and this is your favorite one. But the characterization of this action is how it's received by everybody that sees the action, right? So we know that he shot Greedo. We know he flips the coin to homie in the bar and he breaks out. You still murdered a dude in the bar, right? And then Moon walked out of there like it was cool. Like there were no issues and nothing was going to happen to you. That's pretty damn gangster.
If that was in the special edition and he moonwalked out of there, then I would have accepted that.
Yeah.
But he didn't moonwalk out of there.
Moonwalking, then
Yeah,
I'm with
him
you guys.
shooting first and then
I need to
moonwalking
see
out,
that.
I would have accepted that. But no, he didn't do that. And then the other thing is, you're talking about, oh, it's this version or that version. Look, when I hate to bring a sport reference into NerdWars, but when there's something that needs to be debated on sport, they say go to the tape. And I'm sorry, the original VHS tape, if you put that thing in and you bring it back and you can get the tracking right, you'll see Han clearly shoots first.
Right there on the tape. Right there on the tape.
All right.
And I will argue that is important. As someone who saw that version first and then saw the other versions later, the difference in the badassery between bang, you're dead, you don't even get a shot off, and oh, now it's a gunfight. Because that's the difference. That's for me is pivotal to the character. Where you say, does it really matter if he shoots first or not? The fact is that he shoots, and the fact is that he wins this fight. No, because when Greedo shoots, it's a gun battle. When Han shoots somebody dead under the table.
Murder.
Han just fucking murdered somebody. Done. And you can make the argument, well, it's still self-defense because Greedo's the gun and this, but Greedo's in his whole monologue of I've been waiting for this for long. We don't know if Greedo intends to kill him in this moment, if Greedo intends to bring him back to Jabba, if Greedo intends to walk him outside of the cantina to shoot him. We don't know if his life is in immediate danger. And the best part about Han is he ain't waiting to find out. So in any version where Greedo gets a shot off, Han is waiting to find out if he is in immediate danger. When he realizes, oh, I'm about to die, he takes action. In the original version that was released in theaters, Han says, I don't give a fuck if you're going to kill me or not. I am sick of hearing you talk. Die now. and that is a different character.
Okay.
And as I think Damien pointed out, one of the first things we see about him is the most important. And having that as our original characterization of him, therefore makes it more powerful when he then changes later on.
Eric, go ahead. Final word. Go ahead.
Yeah, it makes it different, but more powerful is definitely arguable. Because again, you got to look at it from the perspective of it's mostly meant for people when they're younger. And as we get older in general, we're all going to get a little more cynical, a little more grizzled. So of course, maybe we can appreciate the more badassery of Han Solo, the murderer, versus Han Solo, the badass, where I think by the time it's the shooting across at each other, he's not quite as cold-blooded. He's still the same.
Pause. It's
All right.
connecting again.
It's my fault.
And, sorry guys. I'll fix this.
It disconnected right at wide-eyed audience.
Jesse, what does the cat have to say?
I'm starting to memorize your argument just to help you out.
I appreciate it.
It's back.
Apparently,
right?
Mal wants to have an opinion on this fight because he's trying to steal my headphones.
Yeah, we're here.
There we go. We're back.
He's like, you're all wrong.
Okay.
Here's the deal.
Sorry, where do you leave off of?
He left off of wide-eyed audience.
Yeah, so I mean, it makes a difference, like that the more youthful audience versus us older, cynical types, and I'm generalizing, of course, that, is Han just a straight up murderer, or is he just a badass that can take care of business? Because again, I mean, I don't know. I've been lucky. I have not had guns pointed at me, but if somebody's pointing a gun at me, I mean, I'm going to be a little bit fearful and careful about my movements. So, I might have to take my time and think this through and make sure that is this the right time? Like, it wouldn't be instinctual just to shoot, because who knows, maybe it triggers them shooting you back right in the face or something, So there's going to be at least a delay of let me think about my situational awareness. Is there going to be a better opportunity? Am I even going to have time? You know what? Those words he just said, I'm not going to have time. Boom.
I'm going to let you know right now, Eric, that if you were in Florida, I'm telling you right now, if someone sits at you in a bar and they pull out a gun, you have every right to be Han Solo and shoot first.
Yes.
Okay, just letting you know.
I
And then
was
Texas
right.
and then a couple other places, you're not a scoundrel, you're not a murderer. Okay, you were sitting at a bar having a drink, and some dude sits down and goes, "Hey, you coming with me?" I'm gonna be like, "Bam!"
Also, I was
The question is, where are you
7 and I
shooting them? They die
cared.
immediately.
Just saying. So
Does
I
he
was your young
really-
wide-eyed audience.
Jesse, last question. Is he really not a scoundrel if he doesn't shoot first?
It's all about that first impression and the power of the first impression. He's still a scoundrel with or without that, but that very potent first impression where we realize just who this person is. This is not just a scoundrel at the bar. I think
He's
Damien made a
not
great
just a
point on that.
scoundrel. Now he's a murderer.
He is the scoundrel. Exactly. He's a bad guy, and that's important. He's a bad guy at the beginning of this movie, and he finishes as a good guy.
Are you a
And
murderer?
that's why he has this beautiful arc as an anti-hero. And I think he's just another gangster shooting another gangster in that scene, and that's exactly we learn who he is. We don't feel like he's defending himself. We feel like he's just an asshole, and that's part of why we love. He's the lovable asshole, and he goes from being just that to being the lovable asshole who's also going to come through for his friends.
Right.
All right,
Can we honestly say that two guys who are a bounty hunter and a scoundrel and meet in a bar, can we really start that off with, oh, one of them needs to be nicer to the other guy? I mean, do we really feel like he's a murderer when he is clearly working with the mob, and he's described, Jabba the Hutt is described as a mob, and he owes a debt to the mob, and this is a bounty? I mean, we've seen Westerns before. Do we ever say that?
We've seen The
hey,
Godfather, too.
Yeah, is that guy, are those guys equally pretty much bad guys? Are they really, one makes them more innocent than the other? I mean, they're both pretty guilty at that table. They're both pretty eligible to be like, what, both of y'all should probably go to jail because y'all both probably bad people at this particular point in the story. So are we really calling him a murderer? I'm like, it's if two gangsters are in a bar.
It is space.
If two gangsters are in a
know
bar.
the laws
Those
of
are
space.
typically
Yeah.
murderers.
Yeah, so I'm like, I mean, it's not like Guido sat down and said, "Hey, Han, a long time no see. Remember high school reunion? I was just wondering, bam!" Oh! And then I would call him a murderer, but he didn't do that. He was like, "I'm going to take you in. Jabba's going to rip you a new one." And you know
So are
what
we
I mean?
downgrading this to space manslaughter? Is that what it is?
Space manslaughter.
At least space manslaughter.
All right, time. Bang, 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 bang. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think you had the tougher argument here, Eric, and then even you didn't help yourself because you sort of admitted. But I think smart for you to admit that it's not your favorite thing. But I think that sort of seals the deal. But he's not. He's not Lando, right? He doesn't like cop out and screw him over. Like he I guess he is, because Lando, he's looking out for himself. My point is he's not a wuss. He's not a loser. He's gonna put his money where his mouth is, which creates definitely a tougher, more important scoundrel at the start of the film. But there isn't that was a pretty good argument, Eric, to say it's George Lucas's just big FU to the fans. And in this case, but I don't think that's solved. Han did shoot first, but it doesn't mean we can't still have George Lucas F with everybody to be like, yep, it's still mine. Screw you. I'm going to be a petty asshole because I made Star Wars. I'm allowed to be.
It's very punk rock, and that's just where I come from. I mean, I'm a punk rocker at heart. That's what I was. I still am. I consider myself, and I mean that's why I love like a George Lucas or a Rian Johnson. And I think that comes down to subjective taste. It's like I love that they're willing to kind of very subtly fuck back with people.
And the next
See,
one,
that's where I draw a distinction, though, is George Lucas created Star Wars. He has the right to fuck with us if he wants to. Rian Johnson inherited that IP, and he had no respect for it. So that, for me, is a huge distinction.
All right, well, that's a whole other can of worms.
It is.
Oh yeah, that could be another fun show. Another round. This was so popular. Maybe we'll have to do. We'll get in the Last Jedi.
in the new edition, Han Solo is going to shoot out sleeping gas, and he's just going to fall asleep.
It's gonna be the flag with the bang at the end.
I can't wait to see what catchphrase it is then.
We were
It's a
doing that on
water
my
gun.
stream the other day. Is what's the worst new change they could make? It was something about Jeffrey Epstein comes out and kills Greedo. I think it's something suggested. But,
I think the blanket is telling you something, Eric. Sadly, as it falls on you. But Eric, well, there you go. Jessi wins with 2 points. We don't even need our bonus round here.
Yeah,
Fantastic job, Eric. I do think you did a great job as well, and I applaud you for coming and doing the unpopular opinion here. Bravo. Go ahead. What were you gonna
And
say,
I have
Eric?
to admit, halfway into that, there was a moment in that argument that I was like, oh crap, I'm about to start clearly arguing for her side. And I kind of changed up in the middle of it. So I was like, okay, not winning this one.
Yeah, and I want to call because but thank you, Ricardo. Bunda said, Eric, take pride in that Howard Stern called you a virgin. I'd kill for that. I gotta echo that. As a huge Howard Stern fan, you got to listen to Howard Stern, watch your video, and react to it. Was that just the most fun thing ever?
That was crazy, and I'm still kind of bummed that they didn't then react to that, so I could have filmed my reaction to that and just keep a whole reactception thing going.
But if you're gonna
But
get
that was
roasted,
awesome.
he's the king to get roasted by. But that must have been
Yeah,
fun.
although I was disappointed. Like, really, nerd, virgin, that's all you've got in 2019? You're Howard Stern, man. I mean, come on.
He's gotten a little Hollywood, a little lazy
But
of
I have
years.
to say,
but-
I think that is the fact that you left that video, you left the comments, and you owned it 100% was huge. And I think anyone who gave you shit on it is dumb, because this whole thing. I may not agree with your take on it. I may have watched that video and gone, "Oh my God, who is this guy? I would hate him."
I watch it and cringe. I mean, come on.
but I also accept, like there's a part of it that makes me sad. That's like, man, I wish I was still that excited about
Exactly.
Star Wars. And I don't begrudge the fact that you are.
No,
Like,
when we
not-
watch
not
a movie,
little.
everybody in this panel and everyone watching, when you watch a movie, you're lying to yourself if you do not want to watch that movie with as much passion and excitement as Eric is when he watches those trailers. That's what we're all. And so anybody who's knocking on him is just insecure and depressed and upset with themselves because they're so just cynical to movies that I
And
absolutely.
the power of cinema.
I mean, that's part of the reason that some of the people in this panel right here are avoiding like the spoilers. Like, I've honestly been like blacklisting everything about the Skywalker, Rise of the Skywalker, because I'm like, you know what? As with all of its problems, all this stuff, I want to go in for the first time, not having seen or read anything. I just want to go in and just kind of recapture that. And Eric, I envy you because you felt it on the trailer, and on the trailer, the first thing I felt was like, you've had me twice.
Oh, come on. You're all lying. That score is amazing.
No,
that
the
score
score-
could
oh,
literally show anything, and I start going, maybe it's good.
Oh, The Force Awakens.
So that was the first time I saw the trailer, was at Celebration at the panel in that room with all those people who were just buzzing for it. And I will admit, when I saw Lando on the Falcon, I got a couple fifis,
Yeah.
got a few fifis there, and then obviously we all lost our minds when Ian McDiarmid came on stage and said "roll it again." Like that was I got chills in that moment too. So there were things about that initial experience that got me, and then after I let it sit for a second, I was even more mad about that. Because I'm like, how dare you? How dare you play on my feelings and my nostalgia by putting Lando in the Falcon? How dare you do this to me after what you've done to me for the past 2 films?
But you're buying a ticket and you're going to go see it.
Of course.
Opening day.
We've already
look,
got 3
let's
at least.
be
So.
honest. I got a lot of people who want to hear my review on it. So I
Nothing
can't.
pulled the
Well, that's
heartstrings.
true. That's where we're stuck.
Nothing pulled the
Well, and that's the
heartstrings
thing. Like, I love that there are dissenting opinions, because I think a lot of people, we're getting to this place in this day and age where everybody seems to think we should all think the same thing. And it's like, God, no. We're supposed to feel differently about these things.
Well, I want to
We're
continue.
the
I want to
devil
continue
for
this
disrespect.
conversation. For those that don't know, I have a Patreon and we do a quick little after show, which Eric has been nice enough to stick around. And I got a lot more questions for Eric. I have a comment here. Let's see if Eric will
got
cry
plenty
for
of
us,
wine.
Eric. So we'll see if I can get Eric to cry live on our Patreon exclusive after show. And any of the rest of you want to stick around, you're welcome to. But I want to give plugs out so we can wrap up the stream. And anybody wants to come over there and watch next, you can. But I want to thank, for real, I want to thank the Eric Butts for showing up, because I do think it takes guts and balls. And for everybody saying he has no balls, he clearly does, because he's here and you're not. And he put his feet to the flames. So Eric, I'm a big fan. I appreciate you doing it. And I am jealous of your fandom. I wish I could be as excited. But people can go find you on YouTube at TheEricButts. You react to other videos. Anything else you want to sort of mention or plug?
I mean, trailer reaction every single day, all kinds of movies, indie films, everything else, unboxings, live streams. I'll be playing Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order. There'll be videos for that this weekend. I've got it preloaded. I'm ready for midnight. I got Patreon too, where I do movie reviews. I'm doing Star Wars fan commentaries right now. My episode 1 one is free. My episode 4 one will be free, and my episode 7 one will be free. Just so you know.
Smart. Tease them, get them out there, and then people will do it. And then Jessi Milestone of Mindless Entertainment, you are now a Nerd Fights winner. You are now have to come back to reclaim your title there against Jody. You two are the first 2 winners. I'm keeping track. But fantastic job, Jessi. I really appreciate it. People should go subscribe over there to YouTube on Mindless Entertainment. What else would you like to plug? Where would you like to send these people?
Definitely over to the channel. A lot of great stuff happening over there. Also on Patreon, Mindless Entertainment, because of some of the interesting changes YouTube's making, I'm going to be putting a lot more content on Patreon. So if you're interested in what I do, even for as little as $1 or $2 a month, you're getting access to a lot of that content. And if you like food or people from Philadelphia yelling at each other, go subscribe to LA Cheesesteak Reviews. We're working on a new show. It's me. It's a bunch of other fellow Philly transplants trying to find a decent cheesesteak in Los Angeles, largely failing. And we just kind of rip it apart and have a good time and tell each other, hey, fuck you, like you do.
And I just subscribed to that because that sounds awesome.
Yeah, as a vegetarian for the past 2 years, that's the one thing that could take me back is a good Philly cheesesteak. Oh my god, I miss that. It's so good. You can't get a vegan fake cheesesteak anywhere. Vegan food's gotten better, but
Impossible Burger, and wow.
Yeah, the Impossible Burger. Well, it still makes me. I know it's good when it makes me crap the same as the meat one. That's the sign. When the vegan food makes you crap like the fast food does, you're like, man, they figured it out. There must be meat in this. But no, the Impossible Whopper, that is surprisingly, for those who crap on, pun intended, veggie vegan people, that's a pretty good way to do it. Anyway, bravo both of you. Yes, guys, Patreon, we all got them now because YouTube sucks. Any creator out there, support Eric, support Jessi, support this one. If you like your creators, go drop them a couple bucks on Patreon because it really helps us keep doing the content. Speaking of which, I got to thank Tom Vargas. Thank you for dropping some money there at the end. I appreciate that support. You know he's a baller when he doesn't even leave a comment. He's like, I'm going to leave us here. I see you, Tom. I appreciate you. That was very kind of you. So thank you. So that's what we got. So I'm going to do the bonus round with anybody who sticks around on our Patreon feed. It's called War Stories, where you'll be able to find us. But I got to thank my panel here. Izzy, any plugs you want to make?
Yeah, man, I'm definitely on Instagram. We'll be starting a podcast soon. At Izzy Takamono on Instagram, IZYTAKAMONO. Come
send me the link. I'll make sure it's in the. Yeah, it'll be down below in the description. And yeah, I'll come on anytime you want. You're the best. Thank you, Izzy. And Damian Alpazar, as always, what would you like to send people to?
I'm Mr. Creative Freedom, but you can find me here most of the time. And I will be dropping some teasers for the new film coming out here.
He's got a horror film. It's very exciting. Stay tuned, everybody. Thank you both. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Rob, for watching over there. I don't have enough cameras to get everybody on, but we'll have more. It's nice when there's more people in the studio that can fit on screen. So thank you to all support here in Tampa. You guys at home, we got a lot more fun guests coming. Both of you come back anytime. I hope you had fun. And all of you watching at home, thank you so much for watching, sticking with the stream and the stream issues. We're back here Tuesday and Thursday. We got some fun guests. Stay tuned. And if you think you have what it takes, you can hit me up at Andy Signor on Instagram. I'm going to do some live auditions throughout the weekend because a lot of people, I want to do it. I'm not going to just pick famous people. Like I'm picking them because they're experienced and they're professional, but I want to test some of you out there. So Instagram has that nice interactive video format. So I'm going to be doing some impromptu auditions. So if you think you got it takes, follow me there, get alerted. And that way when I'm on, you can invite in, you'll be able to fight with me, and I'll see if you have what it takes to join a future episodes. Thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe all these people, the links down below, and stay tuned for War Stories over on patreon.com/Andy Signor. And thank you again, everybody. Bye!
Bye!
Bye-bye!